Welcome back to the Crypto Rainn channel, and today we have a special NFT edition with a special guest host for us. Joining us now on the back end, he has been highly involved in the channel for months and months and months. He is also extremely sharp, and he's somebody I go to and ask questions about NFTs to find out what the latest is and what the trends are and what the hell is going on with Ecomi. Because as much as I love Ecomi, I can't follow it day to day. I'm not always near on top of it as he is, and he is like the NFT king. And we got a special moment that he's able to come join you in person and share with you his thoughts on what the NFT market is doing, what's going on with Omi NFTs, his strategies behind it, and he knows what he's talking about. He's who I often go to ask what I should do with my stuff related to NFTs, because he's way in depth with it. So let me welcome Doctor of Stuff. Come over and join us. Woo!
Hey, what's up?
Yeah,
How
I've been
you
so
doing, Rainn?
excited to have this episode with you and D Money talking straight NFTs with the audience.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all the advice you've been giving me. I did turn him on to Ecomi, but then he became like the master. And so then I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I think it might play out this way. What do you think? And he's like, oh, yeah, totally. Yep,
Yeah.
this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. And he's like almost always right. So,
Almost always right.
yeah. Which
Yeah,
is-
and then Doctor's the one who introduced me, so it's like Rainn is like my VeVe grandpa. Is that how it is?
Right.
Doc is my VeVe daddy.
Nice. Yes, I'm not going to think too literally about all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Perfect.
Back off that.
I am going to hand the reins over to Dr. Stuff as he talks to you about VeVe, Ecomi, and what else is interesting in the NFT market.
While you do that, I'm gonna start this party.
Join me, Rainmakers.
So what's up, Doctor of Stuff? Should I call you Doctor of Stuff? That feels a little. I'm just gonna call you Doc. How does that
Yeah,
sound?
yeah. A lot of people just call me Doc.
Right on. So, yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about with VeVe. And
Yeah.
yesterday, so what was Thursday?
They had their AMA, right?
Yeah, they had their AMA. And so, let's talk about the first couple of things. The big deals that people always want to talk about are Immutable X and the MTL. So what did you learn from them as far as, let's start with Immutable X and go from there.
So, basically on the AMA, they were talking about Immutable X and that it's still in process, that they're almost done with phase 2. And I don't know if you follow Immutable X on Twitter, but they had recently made a post, first and foremost, with the Omi community, the VeVe community. A lot of them in the Twitter space will have that red O, right? And so it was really cool what Immutable X did, in which they posted a comment about Ecomi, and they basically had a red X and a red O, like XOXO, which was a lot of fun, right? They played into that red O. So Immutable X had made this tweet, and this is before the AMA, that I'm like, if Immutable X is starting to tweet about it, and then Ecomi had tweeted about it as well, about Immutable X, and I'm like, well, it's got to be getting close, because they've been talking about Immutable X and this transfer of all of these things for quite some time. And they kind of got a lot of heat for it, because people are like, well, when Immutable X? And so they kind of just like backed off. So the fact that like on Twitter, both parties started to do that, then I was like, okay, it's getting closer. And then in the AMA, right, they talked about the fact that they're almost at the end of the second phase. And there was a couple interesting things about this that I'm still trying to wrap my head around how I feel about it. But they are reminting all of the NFTs on Immutable X, right? And so I don't know if that really does anything. It'll be interesting to see how people look at that, right? Because obviously, there's still the first things minted on VeVe. They're just being reminted onto the Ethereum blockchain via Immutable X. But that is something that I'm still kind of trying to process and what that means, or if it means anything at all.
Yeah, so you think that it might potentially mean that like those NFTs aren't as valuable necessarily because they're not like the first actual, you know, Marvel Spider-Man or Marvel Captain America or whatever it is. Is that the concern?
Yeah, right. I mean, technically they're not. I mean, they were first minted. The first NFTs were minted on the Go chain, and I thought that they were just going to transfer them over, and maybe that was too big of a process. That's something that I don't know on the back end what that would have looked like, and so. Yeah, so they're reminting them, and so I don't know if, you know, NFT maximalists are going to say, well, these are kind of like actually version 2, not the originals. So, but the thing is, you won't be able to get to the originals anymore anyways, right? So do they then de facto become the originals?
Yeah, and without getting too technical here, I mean, you brought up phase 2. I know that there are 3 phases to the port onto Immutable X, but so what does that mean exactly? Do we have any idea what the timeline is? If they're close to done with phase 2, how long is phase 3 going to take?
You know, I don't think that they really touched on how long phase 3 would take, but I can imagine that once phase 2 is done, I think that that's going to be a lot of the heavy lifting. And so, and again, the fact that they're starting to bring this up and talk about it publicly on Twitter, to me means that like, it can't be too long, but like to throw out a date, they haven't thrown out a date. So anything I say is just going to be wild speculation.
Yeah, well, and it did. I mean, they said before Christmas, phase 2 should be done, right? So then, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember the first time that they really launched that timeline as far as the Immutable X when they announced the 3 phases. I feel like it was a couple of months ago at least. And so, anyway, I mean, like you said, it would be wild speculation. But if they've done, you know, if they're almost done with phase 1 and 2 after, call it maybe 3 months, you know, maybe it's another 1.5, 2 months, something like that. But let's talk about, so something that was really interesting is they talked about the number of users and new users that are on the platform. Do you remember those numbers off the top of your head?
Yeah, so for quite some time, they were sitting at like 500,000 active users. And then with the Disney release, that just got a lot of exposure. And so they are gaining, Dan Crowther said that they're gaining about 20 to 30,000 new active users a day.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
So now that's insane. That's insane. Can we just back up for just a second? They released their app in December. I mean, it's been like a year, right? And now they have about 1.5 million active users on this. They have they have minted over 1 million NFTs. And I mean, it's just IP after IP, and
yeah, it's mind-boggling.
It's crazy. So yeah, about 1.5 million active users right now, which is making it extremely difficult to get drops, man. Like,
right.
like I used to, like 30,000 drop. I'm like, oh, like easy, you know.
Yeah.
And I did not get the last comic drop.
Well, and I remember, right? Yeah, I totally whiffed yesterday. On God, what was it? Darkhawk,
Yep.
Yeah, totally whiffed for the first time in quite a while, which is a super bummer. At least it wasn't on that Spider-Man 3 that was on Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, and thinking about like the Marvel #1 and the Spider-Man #1, Fantastic Four #1. I mean, I got 4. You got more than I got 4 of the Marvel ones, just right on the drop, and you got more than that if I remember right, or maybe it was later in the week because they did a bunch. They were like 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
They did that Thor one. I can't remember the name of that one, but it was the first intro of Loki, right?
Yeah.
And then anyway, and it was like the Fantastic Four #1, it was the Spider-Man #1, and the Marvel Comics #1. I think they did those like 4 days in a row, and those days, I mean, I got 4 of the Marvel one, I got like 5 of that Loki one, I got like 5 or 6 Spider-Mans, like, and those were like 50 or 60, 70,000, you know, but like mints, but yeah, I mean, the idea of being able to pull multiples on a drop, I mean, those
were the days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I'm kicking myself. So what happened with the Marvel's #1 is they had just done several the blind box, right? They had done like the Marvel Mighties,
Right.
And I was kind of turned off by that at first. Like I don't know, like the blind box concept was like new to me, not knowing what you're getting, and there's like multiple Marvel Mighties. And like I just at the time like I didn't like it, right? And plus there was just like release after release, and like I was kind of burned out. And so like they dropped this Marvel's #1 comic, and I'm like, you know, like I'll buy a few, I'll get a few, and that's all I did, right? I bought like 3, but then like the next day I was kind of just like, or whenever by the time that they had dropped. The Amazing Spider-Man #1, I was like, this is crazy. Like, what am I doing, right? Like, once I read more about Marvel's #1, there's
and you're talking about Marvel Comics #1.
The 1939.
There's
right.
the one that's called Marvels.
Yeah, true. I said Marvels. It's Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel #1, right? And I, looking into it with some research, like, there are very few actual physical copies of that comic, like in existence, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just hadn't wrapped my mind around comics. That wasn't something I collected comics when I was younger, and I still have a box somewhere that I can't find. And I actually might have some valuable comics. Like I don't remember. I have a lot of X-Men comics that I collected during that time. But I was just like, these are like the originals. So Marvel, right? The first Marvel comic book NFT of the very first Marvel comic book. And once I realized that, I was like, ugh. So then I bought some more of those. But then with the Amazing Spider-Man #1, I definitely tried my hardest to get as many as I could off the drop, and then I just bought stuff off of the marketplace.
Yeah, I was picking those up. Anytime that they got to around $10, I would pick up more of them. And I didn't buy as many as you did. I think the most that I had was 16 of them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I started to take some profits when they hit like $50, $60 early. Like, I mean, this has been maybe 2 weeks ago. I was like, man, I'm going to buy, because I'd seen them go up, right? I'd seen them hit, $35, $40, and they always came back down to like 20, 25. So when they hit 50, 60, I was like, I'm just going to sell a few of these. So I think I sold 5 or 6 of mine, and now they're freaking like 120, 100.
Yeah, it went up to like 140, and then it's dropped. So I was able to sell a couple at like 140.
Wow.
And then they've dropped since, and it'll be interesting to see. Like comics, I think the comics and collectibles, they oscillate, right, between like what's in the hype cycle right now, and comics again are in the hype cycle. So yeah, like you'll see. I mean, I don't know if you remember, right, when like the Rogue and Gambit X-Men comic,
right?
Like that's the uncommon, right? That was going for $200,
right?
$200.
Yeah.
Like it was,
and
I was like, sell.
Yeah, no, you told me though, you were like, I want that uncommon because of that artwork of Rogue and Gambit, because that was such a, I mean, thinking back to like when we were kids and there was that X-Men cartoon, right? Rogue and Gambit had this like will they, won't they, like, kind of tension going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was something that like really resonated with me as a kid. And so you saw that artwork and you're like, oh man. And you told me, you're like, no, watch that uncommon, it's going to be huge. And I actually pulled the rare and the ultra rare on that comic. And those ended up, I still have that rare and it's worth like $80 or something like that. Like whatever, it is what it is. I mean, it's still like an 11 or 12x. I can't cry too much about that. But we're talking about this a little bit too much. I want to talk about the MTL real quick.
Yeah.
So because it actually, I mean, they've been talking about this for, I mean, forever, right? But I feel like about 6 weeks ago they said that they were going to roll out and start testing with some users in the next few weeks, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually happening now, according to the AMA. So talk about that a little bit more. Yeah.
So I want to back up and let's give, man, these guys get crucified all the time, like a little bit unfairly. David Yu, he is, I feel like he's an eternal optimist, or at least it comes across that way, right? He's very positive. I just love listening to him. The guy's incredible, and I got to hear his story on Twitter Spaces. But
hey, look, Doc, and for the benefit of the audience, when you're talking about David Yu, like, who is David Yu?
Oaks, my apologies. So he's the CEO of of VeVe and Ecomi, right? And you know, he partnered with Dan Crothers and Alfred Kahn, right, to create these two companies. Ecomi is basically the cryptocurrency or the crypto asset, and then you have VeVe, which is, you know, the app and the collectibles, right? But he's over both of those. And his background is he's a collector, right? And he's owned some stores in New Zealand, and that's how he's made a lot of the relationships and the contacts that he has throughout the years to build out VeVe. But so David Yu and Dan Crothers, I think back in like February, it's February or March, where David Yu was talking about like the MTL is coming soon, right? And they probably had gotten quite a long way. And so in this AMA, one of the things that David Yu said, he was like, you know, like he used some percentages, is like, you know, 95%, but sometimes that 5 extra percent can take up 50% of the time. And so I know quite a bit about financial regulations, and when I heard about this money transmitter license thing, and I was like, I didn't know how far along they were when they had started, when he made that announcement, right? But as things started to come out and people were like in June and July and be like, where's this MTL? That's when I was saying, look, when you have to deal with banking regulations and international laws, right? Because they're probably going to be converting out into multiple different currencies around the world, the banking partners. There's a lot of laws surrounding that, right? That they're going to have to abide by. And that's one great thing about VeVe, is that their focus is on compliance. They don't want to mess with that, which is very, very smart. And so, yeah, they're trying to go. There's a lot of red tape, and basically it sounds like, and Dan Crothers had spoken, not this last AMA, but the AMA before that basically the regulatory red tape, like the regulators had gotten it approved, but there's still a process there. So they're rolling it out, right? Their own company employees are starting to kind of do the testing and making sure, and then they're going to be rolling it out. They said in like 25 to 50 to 100, you know, until it kind of rolls out. With the expectation, my understanding is that by the end of the year, or soon thereafter, almost everyone will have access, if not everyone, to take out money. But there's going to be, I would assume that there's going to be some thresholds, right, or some requirements before you can just, like, are you going to be able to withdraw like just $25? Like, I don't know. I think there's probably going to have to be a higher threshold. I don't know what that's going to be. If it's like 500, 1,000, 2,000, something like that, before you can start withdrawing or converting your gems to cash to take out.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about like the overall ramifications of this happening, right? Because this was the very first thing when I was talking to my wife about buying one of these things, right? Like what is it exactly? You know, I'm like it's a digital collectible. I'm always like, think about it as like a digital baseball card, right?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And but when I was trying to convince her, because, you know, I brought this up, but like I bought my very first purchase happened to be the secret rare freaking Spider-Man, right? The collectible, not the comic, right? So I paid $400 for that, and that was a pretty big ask of my wife, right? I was just like, I really believe that in this, and she was like, "You're spending $400 on what exactly?" But anyway, and the reason why I bring it up is because I'm like, yeah, we're you know, you load your money on and you get these gems. And she was like, okay, and then when you sell it, like, how do you get the money back? And I was like, well, like, you can't yet. Exactly, right? And so it was this like, well, how do we know that it's ever going to actually happen? And you were the one who was like you got to understand that, like, if Marvel, if Disney is partnering with these guys, if the United States Postal Service is partnering with this company, like, there's absolutely no way that they're going to allow people to be dumping money into this platform and then never let them get it off, right? How bad does that make Disney look, Marvel look, the United States? But that, where you and I understood that, or you helped me understand that, I think that there are a lot of people who, that's a big obstacle, right? Until they're going to be willing to actually get into the platform, right?
Yeah.
So I think ramification number one is that it's going where we're seeing 20 to 30,000 new users on a daily basis. I think that number goes up, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's going to, no matter what, you know, it's going to, as people share, and, you know, it's going to go up exponentially, but I think that that number is going to go up. And then number two, talk about the ramifications of when people are able to cash out. What's that going to do to the collectibles market, in your opinion?
So, initially, I'm kind of going back and forth right now, and I guess let me start out with when I first heard, you know, as MTL has gotten closer and closer, I'm just like, I think that there is going to be a big gem crunch where people are trying to sell all of their collectibles because they want to cash out, right? Look, I've been in since March, and you know, kind of that thought process, like I've been dumping in money since March, right? Now I've been able to leverage, you know, flipping and things, right, so that I'm not dumping pretty much anything in anymore, but I've still got a lot of trapped value in there, right? And I know that there are some people who are like, I would actually like to take profits. Because what I believe is happening is, so let's say I land a secret rare off the drop on a comic, right? And those have dipped, you know, where depending on the comic, you know, you're getting 600, 500, 600, 700 gems, right? But I don't have anything to do with those gems. I mean, there are some kind of like sketchy, you know, like off-app transactions that do occur. I have seen so many posts of people getting burned by that I'm not willing to, because I know that the MTL is coming out at some point. So for the most part, your value is trapped in there, right? So then what do? Well, you just buy more collectibles. So like, I do think that some of the values are inflated, because all of this money is coming in, but it can't leave yet, right? And so what happens when the money is able to leave? I do think that people will sell some collectibles, and so I do think that there will be a dip, but probably not as big as I originally anticipated. I think that because it's a process to get this MTL, people's minds are kind of thinking more towards that, and they're adjusting expectations, right? And so some people have already sold some things so that they have gems on the side so they can take out. So I think it's getting priced in there a little bit, but I do think that there will be a dip, and I'm waiting so that I can just buy more of these collectibles. Yeah,
is your plan to, like, are you going to take any cash out at this point, do you think? Or, I mean, and I don't know if Rainn said it at the beginning of this episode, but once again, this channel is not for financial advice,
right.
And I really hope that you understand
yes.
that this is just Doc and I talking about VeVe, like what
our strategies.
Yeah, so what's your plan? I mean, are you going to take any cash out, or is your plan to just 100% buy more collectibles as the market dips, if the market dips when the MTL rolls out?
I have no plans to take any money out. In fact, I would love to buy more if it does dip, which I think it will, because the other thing that I'm really waiting for is the Omi to NFT. Right, so they're coming out with the Omi utility program, version 0.2, and I love, there's so many things that I love about VeVe and Ecomi, that the CEO, like the top executives, they listen to the community, and I think as a whole, the community is very, very intelligent, right? And so they provide a lot of really good feedback, and they adjust because of that. So, we're going on to Omi Utility Program 0.2. So, the Omi to NFT, right, where I'll be able to sell my NFT for Omi. I want to pack more Omi bags. Like, I have a decent bag, but like, there's been a lot of other focus on crypto that I've gotten into and other NFTs and things. So some of my money is out there, but like, I really believe in the Omi token as well, right? And so, I want to buy some of these collectibles if they go on discount, and then I'm definitely going to hold until that Omi to NFT conversion. And so then I'll have Omi in crypto, right? And they have this staking program, which I'm really excited to see how if they change that at all from what they have from the first release, the initial release, which Dan talked about that happening, Dan Crothers. And so, I believe that will happen, and there's going to be some additional benefits depending on your staking tier.
So help me understand with the Omi utility program, like you said, we're at 0.2. Like when is that going to be a possibility? Do we have any idea on the timeline of that? Because that's something that appeals to me as well. I own, you know, again, a small bag, whatever you want that to mean, of Omi. It's actually my largest crypto holding, because I'm a big believer in the project as well. But yeah, I mean, being able to sell for Omi, and then I love the idea of being able to stake my Omi. But what are they talking about? So two questions, like, do we have any idea on the timeline? And then also, when we are able to stake our Omi, what are the benefits and the potential rewards of staking our Omi?
So you're not going to be able to do Omi to NFT until they finish with the immutable X transfer, right? So if that's going to be 2 to 3 months out, you know, like we were hypothesizing or speculating, it's not going to be till after that. So there's the first one. I mean, I don't know how far out it will be from there, but like, you know, you're not going to, because all of these transactions are going to then occur on the Ethereum blockchain, right? And so that has to happen first. And the Omi token has to move over to the Ethereum blockchain for that to occur. And then the second thing with the staking, right? They want to make sure that they are not considering, or that the SEC or other financial regulators do not consider Omi a security, right? Because then it's treated differently, as we see with Ripple and what's going on there and that lawsuit, and I mean the tanking of the value. They don't want to get caught up in all of that. So they're being very careful in the way that they're devising the rewards for staking that. And staking, for anyone who may not know, right, is you're going to take your cryptocurrency, which in this case is Omi, and you're going to lock it up for a defined period of time into a smart contract, right, where you cannot, well, depending on what the requirements are, but sometimes the staking is like, hey, you're going to lock this up. You do not have access to it, but because you've locked this up, you're going to get some benefits from that, right? And so whether or not, like, what those benefits are, they're changing those a little bit. But so whether or not it's like you're going to get lottery tickets, right, for their drop lottery system, or that you're going to get a discount or on accessories that they might come out with. So there's going to be a benefit, and depending on, they're creating tiers, right? So staking maybe 500,000 Omi will get you certain rewards, staking 1 million Omi. And there also might be like staking 1 million Omi for 30 days or 90 days or 180 days might also get you different rewards. So I'm excited to kind of see like what they come up with, and we could talk about what they have now, but it's gonna change. So I don't think it's really that useful.
Is it worth thinking about the VeVe-verse at this point, and having your Omi staked? Is it possible that that's going to be your ticket into purchasing land in the VeVe-verse?
That is definitely a possibility. One of the things that I love about this project, right, is they are all about providing value to the community. And so this has been brought up in several AMAs, right, about VeVe-verse land, which they are going to have. I mean, I made this long tweet about it when people were kind of fudding VeVe, you know, and I had like 7 or 8 things of kind of the research that I'd done on the team and like why I'm still super bullish on it. And even though the Omi token had dipped, why I wasn't concerned. And the VeVe-verse is a big thing with that. Look, I don't think that there's going to be one like metaverse that everyone goes to. I really do think that there's so much room for so many different types of metaverses. But one of the things that VeVe has with is that all of that IP, and that will matter. That will absolutely matter. And I don't know how they're going to use that IP necessarily, but like I'm holding on to like my Spider-Man secret rare, you know, my Todd McFarlane Batman's, like in case, because I hold that, I can have the Spider-Man or Batman skin, or I can be like allowed to purchase that or something. But there's just so much that they're going to be able to create because of that IP that all these other metaverses really don't have.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this on the channel before, just on a live stream, but like when I think about Ready Player One and I think about the Oasis, like all of the pop culture that is built into the Oasis in Ready Player One. And if you haven't read that book, go freaking read that book. Ready Player Two is fun too. Not quite as good, but the idea of you know, if you own the Spider-Man secret rare, like, what if you have the ability to freaking sling webs, right? Mm-hmm. And now you can, like, or something like that, right? if you own the DeLorean, like you can drive around in the DeLorean. If you own the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you can, you know, like,
you can roast him.
Yeah, have a campfire and roast the marshmallow Man. I don't know, but that pop culture. I mean, that's what that book is all about. I mean, it has so many pop culture references, and so when I think about metaverses, I mean, unless. I mean, I don't know. I just think that, like you said, all of these partnerships that they have, I think that's what is going to create a place where people actually want to hang out. I mean, because right now people, you know, the younger generation, Generation Z, I mean, you and I don't think are here yet, but like they're playing Fortnite. And sometimes they're not even playing Fortnite. They're just kind of hanging out and they're chatting with their friends, you know, in that Fortnite metaverse. You know, can we call it a metaverse? I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? And
sure.
I mean, but so to create a place where people actually want to go and spend a lot of time, I think that pop culture aspect has to be built in. Pop culture, sports, concerts.
Look, we identify with certain things, right? That make us who we are. Whether we wear Nikes or whether Adidas or sports teams, like you said, right? Or musicians that we listen to, the music we listen to. This all kind of helps make us who we are, and we identify with that. And like that has to be there in the metaverse. And so whatever metaverse offers that opportunity for my avatar to have my Nikes or my Adidas or my Real Madrid or you know, like whatever sports, you name it, right? But like to kind of, it's also a flex, right? So with this Todd McFarlane's or the Batman's being like, oh, like, and Dan kind of talked about this, but like in the metaverse, right? If will you be able to see with their Master Collector program, even in their showrooms, will you be able to see the mint number? Right? Because that's a flex. Sure, it's like, oh, like I've got Spider-Man Secret Rare number 154, right? And everyone's like, dang. So, like you're going to need that pop culture, and that people will be drawn to whatever metaverse has that pop culture with it, so that they can create their identity in the digital world, right? So they can still be who they are. Now, they might want to up some things, right? Like with Ready Player One, how they can alter their images to kind of make who they want to feel like they can be in there. But part of that is still going to be with pop culture, and that's where the IP comes in and is massive.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're pretty short on time now. Is there anything else that you feel like is pressing right now with the AMA yesterday, or anything that's on, you know, top of mind as far as VeVe goes right now?
Well, I'm just going to say this, like for those, look, I just want to give a shout out to the VeVe community. I was just in a Twitter Spaces back of the class just last night with Emoji and Gamaverse and Decentral Thought. I mean, just so many true. Look, I'm just going to warn people. If you really start looking into VeVe, you're going to get sucked in, because the community is so warm and welcoming. There are some like infights, whatever. That's going to happen anywhere. But for the most part, overall, this community will welcome you with open arms. They're gonna help teach you. I say we, right? Because I feel a part of that community. Welcome people in and help teach them about NFTs and what's going on there. So I have to give a shout out to the VeVe community. So grateful for them. And this is where I learn a lot of stuff, right? When I'm doing research, but then I'll jump into these spaces and just hear so many people talk, because they're also doing research. So people who want to know more about VeVe, obviously they do have a Discord and a Telegram, but in Twitter Spaces, you see any of those people with the red circle, the red O, basically means that they are VeVe fans and part of that community. So just want to give a shout out to them.
Yeah. So do you think that the best place to find them is going to be on on Twitter? Like, is there, I mean, obviously we can follow Ecomi itself and follow VeVe on Twitter.
Yeah.
But where are the best places? Like, you're talking about these Twitter Spaces, like how do you, I mean, let's have them follow you first of all.
Oh yeah, please. So Doctor of Stuff on Twitter. I'd love a follow. And what happens is when you start following people with those red circles, a lot of people in there, they will start, like Orange Bag Lady will have one, Chatting Tuesdays. She's from Ireland. She's a riot. I love she's awesome. And she talks a lot about the artists, right, in VeVe. But yes, you follow some of these people and they'll start the Twitter spaces. You'll get notified. You can have notifications where like, hey, but honestly, once you start following those red circles, there are VeVe spaces on VeVe Twitter spaces happening almost 24/7. And so you can jump on, you can look, and there'll be a space there. And you can find what niche, there's a lot of different topics and things that they'll have there, and you'll find which Twitter space kind of fits you the best, but you'll learn every time that you're in one of those.
Right on. Hey, thanks so much for being here, Doc. I want to really, again, just thank you for carving out a little bit of time. I know that you're super busy with your full-time gig, and that I found our conversation really informative for my own self. So hopefully the audience did as well. I'm gonna close us out with Jay's Rainmaker rap, per usual, and just so you guys know, it's kind of funny with this. The first time I heard it, I was kind of like, all right, that's kind of cute, and like the more I heard it, the more that I realized that it really does have huge value of like, I mean, I hear these phrases in my head, like, I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low, and that sort of a thing. So give it a listen, really try and internalize the principles that Jay teaches, and we'll see you guys next time.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit, right before you could, was told to buy when it was boring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss, cause I always make the time in mind. I sit the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic, they dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. The time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but when knowledge the gain show. Thinking at this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. I'm sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go with the hate, let the haters be crappy. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, but time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.